Middleweight king Israel Adesanya defended his crown last weekend at UFC 271 in Houston, defeating Robert Whittaker in the second meeting between the pair. Whittaker had been expected to give the number 2 ranked pound-for-pound Nigerian a close fight, and certainly delivered on that front, with some fans and experts even suggesting that Whittaker maybe even won the fight. Stay with us, as today we are talking about who Adesanya should fight next. First up, let's have a quick look at UFC 271's main event. As we know, both fighters from down under went to war last weekend, with Adesanya defending his title for the 4th time since he won the belt, which was incidentally against Whittaker back in 2019. This time around, the fight was much closer after Adesanya knocked out Whittaker the first time they both met. Whittaker came into the fight in good form, having won 3 straight fights since losing his belt to Adesanya. He approached this one with a solid game plan and tried to emulate Jan Blachowicz' performance against Adesanya when the pair met at light heavyweight. Blachowicz nullified the threat of Adesanya's striking by taking him down and going to work on the ground, which was what Whittaker tried to do. Adesanya scored a knockdown towards the end of the first with a stiff left hand connected flush with Whittaker, but the Kiwi got straight back up. Some people then thought Whittaker won the second round after he came out guns blazing, but he was still eating some pretty heavy leg kicks. The fight then carried on in a back and forth manner, with Whittaker finding success going forward. At the end of the fourth, Whittaker's corner told him he was losing on the scorecards, which could have been mind games from his coaches to make sure their fighter delivered a big final round in an attempt to sway the judges in a close fight. And it worked. Whittaker was given the round by 2 of the 3 judges, but came up just short across the fight. So, what next for Izzy? Stay tuned as we're talking Darren Till. Adesanya appeared on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour podcast this week, giving fans his thoughts on how the fight went and what his plans were for the future. And Helwani brought up the prospect of Izzy fighting longtime middleweight contender Darren Till. Helwani knew that Till isn't in the mix for a title shot right now, but Till and Adesanya have been rumored to have talked about fighting in the past and are known admirers of each other. While we all know that Till versus Adesanya won't be happening next, Izzy did say he hopes to fight the popular Scouser somewhere down the line. He also said he's a fan of Till's and finds his social media posts pretty funny, which we all do. Till has lost 4 of his past 5 fights and currently finds himself 8th in the middleweight rankings, which doesn't earn you a title shot. He also hasn't been in the octagon since losing to Derek Brunson, who we saw on Adesanya's card on Saturday night last September, and so far does not have a fight booked. He was rumored to be interested in a fight with Sean Strickland, but with Strickland only recently seeing action against Jack Hermanson, it could be a while before we see him again, whereas Till is probably ready to go sooner rather than later. Do you think Adesanya and Till will eventually fight? If Till can put together a run of 3 or 4 wins, then there's no reason why this one can't get the go-ahead in the next couple of years. Next up, we're talking about Jared Cannonier. Stay tuned. Probably the most likely person to challenge Adesanya next for his middleweight crown is Jared Cannonier. Not only are the pair on the same fighting schedule, with Cannonier having defeated Derek Brunson on Saturday night's UFC 271 card, but he is probably next in line anyway, having won 5 of his last 6 fights. Saturday's clash with Brunson was seen as an eliminator as to who fights for the title next, and Adesanya mentioned that he was glad Cannonier won, as he rates him as a fighter. He also said that he was looking for fresh blood, as he has already fought and beaten Brunson, as well as a lot of other fighters who are currently ranked in the top 10. The pair appear to be on a collision course, and Saturday's dominant KO of Brunson, who was on a 5-fight win streak himself, will have done no harm for Cannonier's chances of fighting Adesanya next, and the fact that the eliminator was on the same card as the title fight was probably planned, with both Cannonier and Adesanya calling for the matchup in their post-fight interviews. Cannonier now has 4 knockouts since dropping down to middleweight, but Izzy striking is some of the best in the entire UFC, so don't bank on him standing and banging with Adesanya. How do you see this one going down if and when it gets announced? Let us know below. And what about the much-fancied Khamzat Chimaev? Russian-born Swede Khamzat Chimaev has also called out Adesanya recently, but his title shot is more likely 2 or 3 fights away at this point, as he also needs to jump up a division if he wants to challenge Adesanya. He is next out against Gilbert Burns, and should he win that, which he is largely expected to do, although Burns is no mug, he could then jump up to middleweight or stick around and challenge Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title. Also on Helwani's podcast this week, Adesanya addressed the man everyone has been talking about recently after being prompted by Helwani. He said he doesn't need to start worrying about Khamzat until he needs to start worrying about him. And as we said, right now he is currently number 11 in the division, below Izzy, so the pair probably won't be meeting anytime soon. One thing we think could potentially happen is a champion versus champion super fight should Chimaev manage to dethrone the welterweight champ Usman sometime in the near future. Whether they would fight at a catchweight and both put their belts on the line, or Khamzat go up to middleweight, with Izzy being probably too big for welterweight, would have to be discussed closer to the time, and that's assuming Chimaev even gets past Usman, who's one of the most dominant welterweight champions in UFC history. What do you make of a potential super fight with the Swede? And what about Sean Sean Strickland? Stay tuned. Strickland is currently on a 6-fight win streak, and there has been talk of the number 5 ranked fighter challenging Adesanya next. Strickland was last out a couple of weeks ago, picking apart Jack Hermanson in a methodical jab-heavy victory. There would probably only be an outside chance of this one being announced as Izzy's next fight, as Cannonier is the most deserving in the division right now. But the powers that be at UFC HQ have done stranger things in the past. Strickland is known for his sometimes uncomfortable trash talk, so this one would be easy to market. He also has that win streak we just mentioned. Adesanya was rather cryptic when asked about the potential of fighting Strickland next by Helwani, saying that he has plans for the 30-year-old. He wouldn't give anything else away when pressed by the #1 MMA journalist in the world, but just reiterated that he has plans for him. Whatever that means, we're not sure, but it sounded as sinister as it was cryptic. Who do you think would come out on top were these two to go to war? Give us your thoughts below. And finally, news of a new contract for the middleweight king. Adesanya, who has signed with Paradigm, a sports management company, has recently signed a new deal which sources claim he is more than happy with. The contract is apparently one of the biggest multi-fight deals in UFC history and means that Adesanya is more than likely one of the best paid champions in the promotion. The deal was done during the build-up to his title defense against Whittaker last week and sees the Nigerian Kiwi move into second place when talking about the best paid fighters on the UFC roster, behind you-know-who, the notorious one, who incidentally is also represented by Paradigm. No details of the contract were revealed, but Tim Simpson, head of Paradigm's MMA division, who also appeared on the MMA Hour this week, said, "It was cordial. There's always hate behind the scenes, but it never got personal. It's always business. I have a good relationship with Hunter Campbell and the UFC and Mick Maynard, and we were able to figure it all out. There was definitely some moments where you have to just let it simmer down a bit, come back to the table, but we got it done, and Israel's happy." When asked if he sees it as part of his job now to fight for better pay for the lesser-known fighters, Adesanya responded that he doesn't see it as his role, but he will certainly be backing his teammates when their own contract negotiations come around. How much do you think Izzy's new contract is worth? Let us know below. As always, thanks for tuning in today, and remember to hit like, subscribe, and share. Also remember to stop by next time for some more fun reveals. Bye, guys!